Hello and welcome back to the Chanel. I'm Florida man. If you know, you know. You're South Florida girl, 6'4" petite. Anyways, today is another review of King of Drag, and we're reviewing episode 3. And now, the rigor mortis in the beginning of this season was very low, as in episode 1, and then episode 2, it kicked up. So now episode 3, we're gonna see how she goes. We're gonna see a little more rigged. Okay, so this week's theme is very opposite to last week's theme. Last week, the theme was comedy, make the judges laugh. This week is the opposite. The theme is fear. Give a shock, a spook, just something that's very, very different. And I am actually living for the mini challenge this episode. So the mini challenge is a makeup challenge. So they have to do a half glamorous face and then they have to do a half monster-esque, like, ugly face. And they actually give them enough time. They give them 45 minutes. That's plenty of time. 45 minutes, that's a whole mug. Like, if you've never done the makeup that you're trying to do before in 45 minutes, like, it's a little hard. But, like, that's a lot of time, actually. And it's really funny. We see Pressure K put on next to no makeup, but we already knew he don't wear that much makeup. He's just giving you trade, mama. He's doing the things. So while they're painting and getting ready, we see, like, Henlo. This is very much up their alley. This is something that they're really good at. They do a scare house, or like one of those, haunted house type of things where you're like, they're interacting with you, though. It's not just scary stuff. Like, it's like the horror actors, and Henlo's talking about doing the paint for all those things. And I think Perk talks about getting into makeup and their style, which love Perk's style. They do that sort of like crazy, ghostly, lots of dimensions, like cuckoo drag. I love it. So let's get into the result of that weenie challenge. The top two are very clear. Henlo and Perk did the best, because the part of this is that you have to, like, have very distinct sides, but they have to have a story. So it can't just be like, well, this side's happy and this side's sad. Like, a lot of them had a story and were actually explaining what their vision was to Sasha and, like, the meaning behind it and why they chose that, which I thought was great. Love giving people time to explain, creative choices and all of that. And the top two is very clear. Henlo and Perk absolutely slayed it. I mean, I think, to me, Perk getting the win feels right. Oh, spoiler alert, Perk gets the mini challenge, the weenie challenge win. And I thought they do really good. It almost could have been like a double win. If this was week 1, there would have been a double win, most likely. So let's get into the beefy challenge, or the main heat of this week. Remember, the theme is fear, or like fear factor, scare factor, whatever you wanna call it. And the challenge is kind of like what feels to me like a Dragula runway type of thing. Like the same, like, it gave me Dragula vibes, the house down, which I'm not complaining. So they have like an hour and a half, I do believe, to get their makeup on. And the challenge is a runway type of challenge. So literally all they're doing is putting on their look and whatever they brought, going on the stage and kind of like briefly performing the runway, like the concept of the runway, whatever that is, to explain it. And they get like a little bit of music in the back, but not like, copyright music. So let's go over the judging criteria for this week. So Sasha Velour said they want to be shocked. They want to be jaw dropped, chills up and down their body type of, like, wow. So that's what we're going off of. And first up is King Percocet, whose fear, I would say, would be lacking trans rights and or being, like, also being disowned because of being trans. They have this, like, or rather, their fear is being seen as a monster, which those other two things pretty much, line up with, I guess. And they do a really good job. The makeup, the look overall, it's a little hodgepodge. It's a little hodgepodge, but at the same time, I doubt that they were given a stipend for this. So I'm not really gonna judge too much on like the look itself, but more of like the concept and the execution. And I had chills all up and down my body. Towards like the second half of them showing off like their concept, they start I guess saying things that have been basically said to them or around them by transphobic people, things I won't repeat, like the T slur and whatnot. And it was just like a very like raw moment. And yeah, I would give this like a 4 out of 5. I thought it was really like, it actually hit the nail on the head. And this is like, at least this is more than what they asked. Like a 3 is my, version of safe, and that's like, okay, you just did like the bare minimum or you're on par. This is, this is doing real good. I was gonna say over par, but you don't want to be over par. Actually, you want to be like under par. But it's so funny how those sayings, like, anyways. So in somewhat the order that they went, we are gonna go through the Kings after Perk. I always remember who went first and who went last, but I can never remember who went in the middle. It's just not, it's not good for me. I don't know. So next up, let's go with DVD. So Dick Von Dyke did the passage of time as like their fear. They said being raised as assigned female at birth, a lot of people experience a lot of being told like you have a biological clock and your time's running out and your looks will fade and da 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 da. And this runway gave me the most Dragula vibes, probably because of the level of the runway and because of like the concept and the reveal. So they come out in this big grandfather clock look, and they have like a pretty like porcelain mask, like pretty much what my face looks like right now actually. And they pop off the mask and they have this like old grandfather face in this grandfather clock like at the top of it. And I would say it was good, but this was like just the bare minimum. This is a 3 out of 5 for me. If we were judging based on the quality of the look, it would be a 4 out of 5, but we're not doing that. We are going off of concept and your performance of the look. And if I got the concept, I knew the concept was about time and aging or metamorphosizing. So it works for me. Yeah, that's a solid safe placement for DVD. Oh. So let's move on next to Pressure K. So Pressure K did not understand the assignment this week in full. They definitely thought the assignment was to overcome your greatest fear, maybe, or something like that. That's what it came off as, because they come out in like a robe dressed with all of these words on them, and like tear that off and have like this chain, and they tear that off as well. And I think their fear was like being like trapped by other people's like perspectives. Like they were talking a lot about trauma like from their mother and their community, and like kind of being like raised to like not ask people for help when you need it, like to be told like that's not like you should never be asking for help, like that's embarrassing, like you should be able to do this on your own, and like da 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 da, which definitely relates to the previous week when Pressure K had to ask for help with their facial hair, to get a fuller beard for their Dong Show character. So I give Pressure K like maybe a 2 out of 3 this week, because it wasn't, it was bad, but it like there was something there at least. It wasn't nothing. So did they misunderstand the assignment? Yes. If they did understand the assignment, would they have done good? Also yes. So I'd say 2 out of 5 is pretty fair. So next up, let's go over Big D's performance. Now, Big D's fear was, and I remember this very correctly, being in their head, like being too in their head to the point that it's like you're thinking so hard about something that you're like indecisive and you can't pick. I'm assuming is really what they meant, like just being so like, well, should I? But I don't know. But what if this? But what about that? Well, I should just da 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 da. And they come out in like this doctor kind of look, and they have like a big prosthetic like head on, like the Megamind head, and they rip it off, and there's a mini them in their head, and they basically have 2 prosthetics on. They have like a smaller head prosthetic and then a bigger one that reveals to that little guy underneath, which I love, absolutely loved. We do see in the critiques that they are not a huge fan of Big D's outfits, and again, I'm not really judging the the looks too much. I think their look was just fine. The only thing was, yes, they were wearing like a sports shoe, like a athletic sneaker. Was really the only thing, but I thought it was funny and very on point, hit the nail on the head. So I personally, I'd give this a 4 out of 5. I would say the judges would probably give it a 3 out of 5. And if we were judging the looks, I probably might give it a 3 out of 5 as well, because the concept and the execution was really good. And I got it right away. Like, I didn't have to question, like, what is this about? Speaking of questioning what is this about, Alexander the Great. Ooh, this week loved where they took it. Did not like the execution because it just didn't give me enough. Like, I also didn't really understand, like, if you hadn't been told as a viewer what they were doing, you probably wouldn't have understood what, like, they were doing, you know? So I would give them a lower score. I would give Alexander the Great probably a 2 out of 5 as well, because they had something there like Pressure K, but with Alexander the Great, there just was not enough. And again, if I was one of the judges, I would not have understood the full story. So very sorry to Alexander the Great. You did not do it this week. And it's definitely like a 2 out of 5 for me. I think our last person up is Charles Galen King.
Liza Minnelli, lies.
And Charles does, in my opinion, not bad. Pretty good, actually. At least, you know, a solid safe, because their concept was one of the harder ones to approach. Their fear was definitely about, like, death and the afterlife and also living. They spoke about thinking about deleting. So Charles had mentioned in the workroom that they had, you know, multiple instances in their life where they thought about ending themselves, and that was definitely referenced in the performance. And I had full chills for the performance. I would have put it in the top, like, definitely a 3 out of 5 at the very least. You know, the judges didn't like the outfit too much either. They said it wasn't, like, big enough, but I think it was fine. Again, if you're not giving them a stipend, I don't think you can judge too much on the outfits. But that's just my opinion. My gay opinion. Next up, we're going to go over Henlo's performance. And Henlo did pretty good. Definitely giving you a concept. Definitely giving you just over the top. They had, like, all of these, like, flesh pieces and, like, syringes and all that. The only bad part is that their final reveal with, like, blood did not go off. And they, you know, kind of were like, oh, what do I do? So, like, you could tell they were, like, gearing up for something in their performance, and they, like, go to, like, release, I guess, the blood from their head, and it just, like, didn't go off. And they had, like, some reveals in there. The outfit was very, like, grotesque. Definitely told me a story about fearing medicine or medical issues or, like, a botched surgery. Yeah, so Henlo's fear was, like, medical mishap type of thing. You know, like, you go in for surgery and someone leaves something inside type of thing. I say they did pretty good. I give Henlo at least a solid 3 out of 5. Could have been in the top if it had the final reveal that they were going for, but it just didn't work out. Things happen like that sometimes. You know, it sucks. Henlo's definitely been on, like, this roller coaster going back and forth and back and forth, and it's like, you know, this episode felt the most like at home for them. They got second place in the mini challenge, and then they got safe in the actual challenge. And the last person we're going to go over is King Mo. And King Mo this week, it was kind of safe, kind of not. I wasn't living. If I had been one of the judges, I would not really have known what their fear was. I would have assumed, like, you're afraid of the dark, or, I don't know, monsters with long arms. Like, I didn't really get it. It didn't make sense to me. Again, if I didn't have the confessionals, it, like, would not have checked. And all they did was walk around and present the garment, and it had no real reveal other than what was on the back of it, like, which was, like, kind of like a voidish looking thing with, like, these segments. It also kind of looked like a flower. I don't know. I described what King Molasses did, like, to my mom, and she was like, was he afraid of the dark or something? I was like, no. Like, he was King Molasses' fear was the void or the unknown type of thing, and I don't think they really conveyed that well enough in their look. I would definitely give this like possibly even a 2 out of 5. Like, this wasn't even like a 3 out of 5 for me, because again, if I was sitting there as the judges, I would not have understood what was going on. I would not have been getting chills like with Percocets or excuse me, or with Charles Galen King. So to me, I might give it a 2 out of 5. So let's go over my placements for this week. My top 3 would have been Percocets, Big D, and Charles Galen King, because I thought they did the best, and I give the win to Perk. And then the bottom 3 would have to be Alexander the Great, King Molasses, and Pressure K. Yeah, I completely forgot that Pressure K was there for a second, only because they did not understand the prompt this week. So yeah, Pressure K would be in the bottom for me because they didn't understand the prompt, and then Alexander and Molasses because they did not convey their prompts to the fullest or even like give me chills, so I just can't with them. And again, this week has some rigor. So the real placements this week are Percocets as the winner, which I agree with fully. And apparently the runner-up was King Molasses. When the judges were deliberating, they said they were pretty much going back and forth between King Molasses and Percocets, so to imply that the other people for critique were all in the bottom, because there are 2 eliminations happening this episode. So everyone in the bottom 3, usually the bottom 3, there's only 2 people in the final thrust, but we will have a bottom 3 competing to stay, and only one will get to stay. So the rest of the people on stage, I guess, are supposed to be the low placements and the bottoms. So we have Big D, which I thought should have been in the top, and we have Charles, who I also thought should have been in the top, being low or bottom, and then obviously Pressure K and Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great and Pressure K, totally agree, bottom 2. But Big D should have been in the top, and King Molasses should have been low placing. You don't have to put him in the bottom 3, but put him low placing or something, because it's just the rigor mortis of it all. Like, having him in the top again, like, I don't know. So this week's final thrust or elimination challenge is a 1-minute Blair Witch Project style self-tape recording of themselves in the man cave with the other competitors who are safe and staying in the background as like the monsters. And I'm assuming the goal for this was to be a little bit more on like the campier side or the funnier side. And the person we see get to stay is, drum roll. So the person staying this episode is Charles Galen King, which it feels wrong because Alexander the Great has been doing so well, but at the same time, out of the bottom 3, I think Charles did the best, so they didn't even deserve to be in the bottom 3, let alone like go home to one of those 2. So it just felt, and based off of the final challenge, I would say it really could have gone like any of the ways. We saw each one of them get a vote by the judges, and this episode is the episode where we really understand why there are 5 judges, because 1, we don't want Murray Hill to get involved. He's hosting and connecting with the kings, and for the voting they need an odd number of people, so they need at least like 5 people to be able to vote properly between all of them, and they do pick Charles to stay, which is agreed upon. And yeah, this double elim, I did like the drama of it, and being like, haha, to shake things up this week, 2 of you are going home. Especially because it's also a shorter season, so there are only 2 more competitive episodes, and if there's 2 less people instead of just 1 less, that's more airtime for everyone else, and more chance to win. So congratulations to Mr. Percocets. He got his weenie challenge and his beefy challenge, so he got a really good storyline this episode as kind of like a comeback, because episode 1 he was low placing, And episode 2, he was in the bottom. So to come back like this is insane for him. Very happy. I love his vibes. He's great. And next week we will see. Yeah, we're gonna see. Who do you think is the next king of drag? Who do you think? Based off of the judges, it's probably gonna be King Molasses. But honestly, like, Big D has been killing every single challenge. I think Big D could have had 3 wins at this point if the judges wanted to give them to Big D and not someone else. But hey, that's just my opinion. A drag opinion. Hopefully these review episodes are getting better as they go. This is only my 3rd one. I'm also filming all of these in like one day, like in an hour and a half. I'm filming all of these. So yeah, we are left with 6 kings. We have 6 kings remaining, and one of them is going to be the next King of Drag, sponsored by Elf Cosmetics, of course. They're not sponsoring me though. If someone wants to sponsor me, they can sponsor me. I've never had a sponsor. I've never wanted a sponsor, but if I wanted a sponsor, I'd go and get one because I am what? Marketable. All right. Until next week, cool friends, I will see you for another review. Bye-bye.
Ain't no party like a cha-cha party, cause a cha-cha party go on.